أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم. With Allah's name, the merciful, benefactor, and merciful redeemed, today we want to review, visit Surah 110, Al-Nas, the help. And we start by reading it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في الدين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. And English translation is, when comes the help of Allah in victory, and you do see the people enter Allah's religion in crowds. Celebrate the praises of the Lord and pray for his forgiveness, for he is oft return, grace and mercy. Surely Allah speaks the truth. We have chosen this surah, which is, I believe, very timely now, since we are experiencing growth in a lot of our messages. And Allah tells us what to do when the growth comes, when the help comes. And I think it's just imperative for us to actually get on top of what Allah is telling us when the growth does come. How our example, what was his position, because it happened during this time as well. People came in droves. I mean, they came in larger number than maybe ours are, but nevertheless, they came in large numbers. So, this surah explains to us that when the help of Allah comes, that we should celebrate the praises of Allah. And celebrating the praises of Allah normally means, to celebrate means also to acknowledge openly and without ambiguity, without any ulterior motive or whatever. And it also asks us to pray for forgiveness. Because we have to be here when the new people come. We have to be prepared to help guide them when they come. That's really important for a lot of our communities. Are they going to come? This word is sending them. You know, we really think that we're sending them, or we're not sending them. This word is actually sending people to seek refuge, and they're coming here seeking refuge. And again, we as current members need to be prepared to receive them and help guide them. And what does that mean? That means, first and foremost, we should direct them to Allah's word. We shouldn't have just anything to talk about initially. Initially, they should be given this. And as much understanding as we can give them. And I'm not saying you have to give it all to them, we have to give it all to them at one time, but this should be the initial thing that we give them, because that's what they came for. They came because of something they were curious about, or something somebody told them, or they heard, or whatever. So when they come, we want to offer them this first, before anything else. And we want to also offer a good attitude, a welcoming hand, and we just want to be in a position when They come when people come to the masjid, to the centers, that we be to them as just as Allah told Prophet Muhammad, praise and peace be upon him, to deliver the message freely, unbiased, no strings attached, not even expecting anything, just deliver it clearly, unbiased and unfettered, and that was his responsibility. He wasn't trying to lord over the people. He wasn't trying to be the wali over the people initially. I mean, surely there were times when he was consulted about these things, but he made it known. Allah made it known to him that he is not to be over your affairs, and we have to take on that same position. Now, for us, meaning this particular masjid, African American, in the association of Imam W.D. Muhammad, Imam Harshadin Muhammad, son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there's a place for all of us. There is a place for all of us. I mean, we have the Imam, and the Imam is whom we selected. We select the Imam, we ask the Imam to be our Imam, leader, spokesman, out front. But we can't, after doing that, we can't just leave our leader. It's like taking your head off. You can't just take your head off and go do some other things. We have to be there to support the head. And I say everybody has a place, from the young to the old. And as a community, we got to see it as one. The old ones, lack of a better expression, the old ones have to be there to help guide the younger ones. The young ones have to give the older ones the respect. The older ones have to give the younger ones the respect. If that's not going to happen, there's going to be stagnation. There's going to be probably delayed progress, a host of things. If we don't know that this is like a smooth progression. It's like one train of thought from the younger people to the older people. A lot of people that are coming may be younger people, and they may have a lot on their minds from where they came from. We have to be there so that we help guide that, help them sift through the good and the bad, so that the bad doesn't come in with them and become the bigger influence. We have to do that. So this surah is kind of telling us, and in fact it is telling us, in so many words that a lot of us may not be getting, that everybody has a place here. When this happens, what we should do, how we should be on alert, how we should be guarding the wounds that bore us. The wounds that bore us is the culture in the community. That's a wound. We grew out of that knowledge body. That's a wound. So there is a hadith where the prophet, when that came, yes, he prayed, right? But he also was very cautious and asking for forgiveness and mercy, which is also says here we should seek his forgiveness and his mercy, because a heavy responsibility will be placed on us. And I hope it doesn't sound frightening or disheartening or anything like that. It's just hopefully helping us to put in perspective where we should be when things come, when the people come, when the growth comes, when the people come in droves. We need to know our religion first from the Quran, from the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad, his example, his living example. And After that, our culture. Where where are we coming from? What was our position, disposition, attitude, orientation before coming here? A lot of them are coming. That's where they're still coming from. They're bringing that with them. So again, we just want to be there to help direct, help them sift through that and not make it paramount, because if not, they may come in again and think that it's okay to bring some of that with them. And there might be some of that might be okay. But there's a lot of it that we want to sift through and help them understand. We used to have what's called a cultural critique committee a long time ago. And the committee was charged, responsible with monitoring the culture of the community. Because we didn't want certain words and certain influences to come in. Cultural critique committee. It's since dropped off, and I am searching like the Dickies, asking every center or message that I go to, do you guys remember that committee? Does anybody have a structure or the method that we used to have pertaining to the cultural critique committee? If you do, can I get a copy of it? Because our communities need that. We are the police, we are the eyes and ears of our community. We don't call downtown to the police office when we have questionable words and influences coming into our community. We are the police in that regard. So we should be on top of it. We should know what it is we need to keep an eye out for. So I ask around for, do you have any of the information pertaining to the cultural critique committee? And we had a lot of good committees that were working at one time, and just that we kind of dropped the ball on them. And now we're seeing that they're needed. Cultural critique. We used to have a Ways and Means committee. We have to have a sick committee. We used to have a hospitality committee. We have to have a new believer committee. We used to have in place in almost all of our centers. Right? Maybe one or two didn't have it, but a lot of them have. And I think they're good for us to have today. So everybody can find their place. Everybody can find their place, and as we're taught to work ye in your places. So that is some of the things that we gather from this surah. When come to help of Allah victory, you see people coming in crowds, celebrate the praises of the Lord, and ask for His forgiveness and mercy. Right? Meaning, you have to be on guard. You have to do something now. Now that you see that coming, they coming to you, you have a responsibility. You have to be ready, not with your thing, not with your opinion. This first, Quran first, the example, the living example of our example, Muhammad, prayers and peace be upon him. Then you can share with them our orientation. Our orientation here is, as I said earlier, we associate with the commentary and the teachings of Muhammad. So that means that's in there as well. But this is number one. The life of Muhammad the Prophet, present peace is right there with Allah. Then comes our commentary on our teaching. So briefly and simply, this is all I wanted to bring. Not a long conversation. Just that when the help comes, we need to be positioned. I mean, that means you got to know your religion. I mean, you have to stay on top of it. You don't know when they're coming, but when they do come, you want to be ready. And our man is already telling us every day or every week or at least a couple times a month, people are coming. And they're accepting the religion, and they want to be here. So if that's the case, and we don't know what to say to him, except for, hey, let's go, whatever, let's go hang out, before feeding him what he actually came, him or her, or what he actually came for. Then we run the risk of not doing our part where we should do. So, well, hold on. There's one question before we go. So we don't want to do that. We just want to position ourselves to be prepared for when people come, to be ready to come with the Quran, the life of Prophet Muhammad, and the commentary of Muhammad, as we know. You had a question? Just,
you pretty much answered it. I was just wondering if these committees were inside the masjid or outside, but it sounds like it's outside as far as the community critique or something like that.
Cultural critique.
Cultural critique.
They were all within the structure, in the masjid.
But I mean, you were regulating what was in the masjid, or you mean you walking down the street and you seeing random individuals who weren't a part of the masjid? That's what I was wondering.
They were inside the masjid. We were regulating the influences coming into our community. We had cultural critique. We had a Ways and Means, just like they have a Ways and Means in Washington, right? We had a hospitality, just like they have a hospitality committee in other places. We had a Sikh committee. We had a New Believers committee in the masjids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking, when you said community, I thought you meant like your neighborhood
community.
Oh,
no, the Muslim community, the community that we're talking, that we're a part of. But everybody had some place they were working in from one of those committees, right? And it's just so sad that we dropped the ball. So I'm searching, again, trying to find information on the cultural critique committee. Because, as I said, people coming, they have their idea of what Islam is all about, right? We can have 20 different ideas about what Islam is all about, right? Not that your understanding of the word, for example, Islam, is going to be so different from mine. You may have a different understanding. Well, what is Allah telling us? What is the Quran telling us? What did Prophet Muhammad tell us? Praise and peace be upon him. So that's the kind of congruency we want. That's what I was talking about when I said being there for the people who come and all being on the same page. Brother Shafiq.
I think that William Salam Masjid is uniquely positioned to be the model of what an African American Islamic community should look like. I think it's enough brothers and sisters who attend the masjid that the responsibility and the responsibilities that you would mention should not fall on the shoulders of the imam, that there's more than enough brothers and sisters, that if we're having individuals come in droves, I think the first thing that we should look at is a new Muslim orientation for those new brothers and sisters, and not just have anyone from the community lead that, but actually have maybe a 5 to 10 point agenda that we cover with the new Muslims, so they don't bring some of the negativity from the culture into Islam because they just don't know. And I think that we can do that as opposed to kind of hoping and praying that things are going to take place. It's enough of us here, if that's a need, even if it's one brother or one sister, that when we have new individuals taking their shahada, then we let them know that we have something in the masjid that we strongly suggest that you attend that will teach you the basics about the faith, and then help them to understand that it's very difficult to be a Muslim by yourself, and that we're a community. And that's how we lose so many people, when they think they have to go through the trenches all by themselves, when we have people here that will take them under their wing.
And to your point, brother
Carl.
Yes, sir. This is one of the shortest surahs. It's only 3 verses, 3 ayats. The help. Nasr. This, we're talking about the short surahs, some of them only 1, 2, 3 verses.
Yeah.
This is the shortest one, I think.
Oh, that one wasn't.
That wasn't one. That one had about 5. This one has 3.
Come on, you can do better than that. No.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where we are with Nasr, and it speaks volumes, though. And it gives us how the prophet approached this and what he did. He felt kind of I want to say burdened when they came. He prayed for forgiveness and mercy. So it's not a light thing. I don't want to make it sound light, and we shouldn't assume that it's a light thing. When Allah sends people to your doors, it's not a light thing. So, only thing I'm saying is that we need to just get on top of our religion as best we can, and a couple of basics. Buni al-Islam, and that helps. Or like the instance when the angel Jibril came to the prophet and asked him, and said, "Akbirni an al-Islam, tell me about Islam." And he said, "Shahadatin la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, wa iqam as-salat, wa ita az-zakat, wa sawm Ramadan, wa hajj al-bayt." That's the first thing he told him. Okay? And we should give the people that as well. Right? And then he went on to the articles of faith and on and just expanded. But I only say that because when we meet these people when they come, let's start right there. And they'll probably have questions. Then we can go on. But we want to start right there at ground one. Because you got to build a foundation. You don't want to build a shaky foundation. Foundation in this world, when you look outside, everything is built on four legs. Right? But we have 5 essentials. So slightly different. There's a whole lot of meaning to the number. We're not getting into numerology right now. So, questions?
I love what you're saying here and what the brother Shafiq said as well. Too often I think people assume that Imam is supposed to do everything, right? I can't reach every person and every issue that they need. It is a complete community, and unfortunately, Juma is on a Friday when most people are working, right? But that's the largest crowd of Muslims or believers that come in. But as believers, we are supposed to be guardians, protectors for each other. So we need to find a day where we are not working so we can be together. So Sunday is a day that most people are off. But there are far fewer people here right now, right? So when a new Shahada comes in, or somebody interested in Islam, it is me or you who are here to help them, right? It's something that the community has to take on as well. The importance of what you're saying is, just imagine, and we think about this, and I celebrate people come in and take the Shahada. I take pictures, we are excited about it. But Allah says when they come, praise Him first, right? Don't praise yourself. Then it says, ask for forgiveness and mercy. How many people do that? How many people, when a new Shahada comes, it's like, Allah, forgive me. Make sure I don't think that I am the person that brought them here. Help me, help them. And if every believer felt that way, every believer sees their place in this community, then they would be more bought in. So I guess it's something that I need to do. I need to push people more into taking ownership, saying, this is your community, right? If something happens to me, right? If something happens to me tomorrow, what's going to happen, right? And something could happen to me tonight, like when I'm driving home, right? So every person has to figure out where their part is and how they contribute. I really like the communities you said, because the reason I am here is because Imam Fareed put me in the Yama group and then made me the treasurer, right? So that's a responsibility that I have to have. I got to come here every week now because I got to make sure the money is counted. I gotta make sure, I gotta come in twice a week, 3 times a week, whenever the money is in here, right? So if somebody's on a committee, there's the wellness committee, there are people that are not doing well right now. I can't go see all those people, right? I can't do all these things. So everybody has to say, what am I doing? If you're not doing nothing, if you come Friday, you come to pray and go home, you ain't doing enough. You just not. If you don't feel confident enough in telling people about your religion, about your deen, then you should be here more often, right? That way you'll get confidence in what you're saying, and then you can tell other people about it. Because I can't tell everybody else. I can't follow you around and see the people that you come in contact with, and the way you understand and know your religion is by practicing it, one, but also teaching it. When you teach it, it reinforces what you already know about it. So you got to be around Muslims, right? So Sunday, Saturday, I know people are working throughout the week. You got to pick a day. Come in here and come and say, all right, this is what I'm going to do for this community. Not just the masjid, but for Park Place. I've been saying this for years. Park Place should be more Muslims here. We've been here for a very long time. Right? It should be Muslims all around here. We should be able to call there then, and everybody that's around here that's Muslim should be showing up. So we got a lot of work to do. I'm glad that you said that, because when the new shahadas come in here, they're expecting something. They're expecting like, well, this is what I expect when I see Muslims. When I see Muslims online or when I know about Islam, right? So it's the duty of every Muslim who's already a believer to be their support. There are people that come here and they don't have enough support, and then the dunya is calling them non-stop. The world out there is saying, come do this, come do this. If you don't have somebody in here saying, no, come in here, they'll go back out there. That's what they know. People are creatures of habit. So if they've been doing it for forever, they'll keep doing it forever unless nobody can help them change it. So I'm off my
I think one thing that maybe we can look at is, since on Friday, during Juma is when we will have the most captive audience, that we have to make sure that either part of the khutbah, the second half, is dedicated to community involvement, or while we still have brothers and sisters getting ready to make the sunnah, to make sure that we said we need to reinitiate committees, maybe just start out with a few, make sure everybody understands that the obligation is incumbent upon every believer, not just on the imam, and not just on a few people in the masjid. And sometimes you gotta kind of guilt some people into understanding that this is bigger than just you, and it's not a one-man, one-woman operation. And I think it's enough, Allah knows best, but I think it's enough believers out here, if we put it to them like that we can get a couple people on the committee and we just start one step at a time. But I think it's the time and the place to start.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to say about this, you said shaming people right now. I don't try to shame people. I try not to. I try to motivate them by what I do. But there is some, I guess, sometimes it works to shame them. So this is the shame that I want to give the community, is that they see Muslims, particularly us as Christian Muslims. We come to pray one day, then go back home and do whatever we're doing. That cannot be the case, right? We come from Christianity where they pray on Sunday, and then they go on about their business the rest of the week. This cannot be the case for us Muslims. There's no day off. There's always something to be done, even if it's a little bit, right? So we can't be seen in that light, or we should not be stereotyped in that way. Even when Allah says, leave off from work, that's to come here and then go back out. Right? So we don't have a Sabbath day where we do nothing. So we definitely can have 6 days where we do nothing.
So that puts me in the hot spot. So I know I got to do more.
Right. This brother right here, how many classes you take, right?
At least 3 online.
Right. He knows Arabic. He teaches Arabic. He's taking classes online. We do Quranic recitation online. people have to get involved. They have to understand the thing, because if a few people can make changes, just imagine if 10 more people started doing it, how much more change would happen. How much more will be coming in droves. It's our responsibility. Allah's gonna ask you, did you let the people know? You know it's the truth. Why you ain't tell nobody? Right? Why didn't you tell your friend that you're really close with? Why you tell everybody that knows me? Everyone that knows me has been invited to Islam. Every single person. They can when the day of judgment comes, I'm gonna be fine. I know I asked them multiple times, probably more times than I should have. Because they were like, look, leave me alone with this, right? So don't be the person when Allah then asks you. They're gonna ask you, did you ask them? Did you invite them to this house?
And let me just put a plug in. I don't want to leave us with the impression that nothing is happening, because we do have some working. We have a gymnastics committee that is working. Gymnastics committee. And one brother has started rebuilding the structure for the Sikh community. So there is some effort, but we just need more.
I definitely don't want to leave that impression, right? That's the reason the parade is going on. That's the reason the business is next door is being built, and it's going to come to a fruition in the next couple of months, inshallah. We got dawah that we do. We got all kinds of things that we do. The more people are involved, the more successful we become, and the faster that success will come. And it's always been the case with every organization that I've ever been in. That's where the person who this masjid is named after, William Salam, said, what did he say? The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Somehow we got to change this, because it's been going on for 30 years. I've never met William Salam. I met his son. I know his son. Well, I never met him. So 30, 40, 50 years ago he said that, and it's still the case. It's still workers are few.
So lastly, Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. All forgiving, most merciful. Sometimes we may not dwell on this, but going back and forth, asking Allah for forgiveness doesn't bother him. It doesn't. If we really understood His mercy and forgiveness and how vast it is, going back and over again asking for forgiveness doesn't bother Allah. We just gotta get that deep in our heart. We can't exhaust His forgiveness. His mercy and forgiveness. We can't exhaust it. So, I would say, try it over and over again. Yeah.
What I want to say is, I know somebody who was a criminal, a drug addict, and he said to me, he went to Umrah with me. He's been to Umrah several times. Umrah is Mecca, not Hajj, but the lesser Hajj, or the pilgrimage where you go to, right? And he said, the one imam said to him, Allah's mercy is larger than your sin. And I don't know why that was, but whatever that was, that hit him so hard, that's his mantra for the rest of his life. Allah's mercy is bigger than your sin. Being a Muslim my entire life, right? I didn't generally stray away doing a bunch of crazy things. I wasn't always imam worthy, but I never didn't do anything crazy. But some people have. There's some people who do not come in these doors who won't. My brother told me I did not want to come in here because I didn't think I was clean enough to. So there are people out there who think their sin is too big for them to be forgiven, right? We, as Muslims, we're supposed to be talking to them and telling them, you don't have to be perfect to come in these doors. So I tell them, listen, I'm not perfect. I just don't advertise my sins. If I commit a sin, you will never know it unless you follow me around and find it. Because I'm ashamed of it. I wouldn't tell anybody that I committed, right? So we just have to let people know that you don't have to be perfect to come in these doors. None of us are. That's why we're in these doors.
And that term is in the Quran a lot, hundreds of times. All forgiving, most merciful. And it's there for a reason, for us to get it. Sometimes he knows that we're not getting it. That's why he put it in something. Almost in every surah, it's there. All forgiving, most merciful. No one's more merciful than God. So with that, if we don't have any other questions or comments, we're going to close this section. Was there another comment?
Are you reading my mind? I was just gonna say during Ramadan, the number one dua we're supposed to make is Al-Afu, you're all forgiving. And I know you love to forgive, so forgive me. Ya Rabbi. You know, so, like, I don't know, is it the whole Ramadan or the last 10 days?
Oh, you know.
Well, I mean specifically, like, if you don't make no other dua during Ramadan, is it from all
So the
30
first 10
days?
days is forgiveness, mercy, and the last 10 days is just seek.
Oh, I'm sorry, Laylatul Qadr.
Right.
That's the dua for Laylatul Qadr.
I love that. Allah loves to forgive.
Yeah.
Maybe people don't understand this, right?
No, we don't think about
We
it.
don't think about Allah. He created you to forgive you. That the reason He created you not perfect. That's why Allah says, "Look at the sky." Right? I can make you perfect. Right? Look at the sky. There's no flaws in it. I can make you the same way I make the stars and the moon with perfection. But I made you imperfect on purpose so you can come to me. If you don't sin, He would never be able to forgive you. So that trait of forgiveness, that attribute of forgiveness would not be fulfilled unless you committed a sin. So your sin is not something that makes you terrible. It actually gives you an opportunity to go to Allah and show that He is forgiven.
So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless us all.
I know there's two visitors here. Y'all got any questions? What I did want to ask is this, and the brother said people come in with different ideas. The one, the one thing that I always think about is how much people know about Islam, about Muslims. Because there are different degrees at different levels. Some people know a lot of things, some people may not know a lot, some people may have some preconceived ideas. Inevitably, my mother, who's known me my whole life, didn't understand some things about Islam, right? So I say that to say that I try to ask people what they're interested in or what they know about Islam or what questions do they have. That way I can better answer them. And I'm going to give you one example of what I was telling you about my mother. So my mother didn't know the difference between the Nation of Islam and Al-Islam, right? And a lot of people out in the public don't know the difference between the two. And she didn't know up until recently, maybe a couple of years ago, because Nation of Islam sounds like all the Muslims, but they have a different ideology, a different belief than Al-Islam. And if you don't know that, you could be confused or conflicted about some certain things. As the brother was saying, this masjid is under the association, under the leadership of Imam Waruddin Muhammad. So it initially started with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. Then he sent his son to learn about Al-Islam, and his son said the Nation of Islam, everything they taught was not actually correct. So he brought them into Al-Islam. Al-Islam means the submission to the will of God, the correct submission to the will of God, right? So he brought them to the correct understanding of Al-Islam. My mom did not understand that until a couple of years ago. The reason she didn't understand it, to be honest with you, is because she wouldn't let me tell her when I was a kid. When I tried to talk to her, she was like, "Be quiet, huh? I don't want to hear about that Islam crap." I swear, that's the truth. That's why it was such a blessing that she became a Muslim a couple months ago. Because when I was a teenager, she didn't want to hear about it. Because she thought it was the reason that her and her husband, my father, was divorced. She didn't want to hear anything about the Islam crap. So I tried to explain to her. When I was a kid, I had a couple of friends on my street that were white, and I was trying to explain to her, they got white friends. She was like, "You're not supposed to. You're in the Nation of Islam." I said, "Mom, I'm not in the Nation of Islam, right?" And then I tried to explain it to her. She was like, be quiet, I don't want to hear that stuff. So I had to be quiet until I was an adult and a imam. Then other people listened to me. I guess she was like, well, let me see what he's talking about. Right? And then she became Muslim. So with that said, you all have any questions, anything that just any questions in general, anything you're thinking about that you wanted to ask?
I was on the phone for a while with Brother Aaron's wife on Friday, so she answered a lot of questions from me.
Alhamdulillah.
We were on the phone for maybe an hour and a half. So,
Alhamdulillah.
I didn't have many misconceptions. Growing up in New York,
Okay.
huge Muslim community.
Absolutely.
I went to school and socialized with a lot. I think, like I was explaining to Sister Jackie, I think I was drawn to it a long time ago.
Mhm.
But because being raised in a Christian home, that's just what I did.
Certainly.
When you get older, you start having different understandings about things. I just find it, and I started coming last year. My husband and I participated in Ramadan. We are not Muslim. We participated again this year. It's just something drawing us. I know what it is,
Right. Right.
And it's just it's very peaceful. And that's a big draw for me. It's like the noise is not here. It's not noise. It's peaceful. It's calm. It's loving, and that's what I'm feeling. As well as some other things, but like I said, from listening to you Friday, because I take notes. So if I'm in my phone, I'm not texting. I'm taking notes.
Believe me, I understand. There's
And
other people that do the same thing.
yeah, I'm taking notes, and then now I have my notebook, and I made my little book bag. So I'm taking notes, and then I go over them, and then that's when I will, I'll text you, or I'll text one of the sisters and say, hey, I got a question, or Mike, because Mike and Zuri are the one that brought me here. So
Alhamdulillah. I said that I can't do it for everyone, but don't think that you asking me any question I won't answer. It may take me a little while to get to you, but I will answer it. So don't think you're being a burden by asking me any question, all right? Any at all, because again, I don't want to be before Allah. And he said, why you didn't answer that question? I later asked you. Right? Right? So I take it very, very seriously. I've been doing, talking to people about religion my entire life, right? So I take that very, very seriously. And I listened to you saying it's something that was drawing you to this. My father said the same thing when he was a young kid. When he was a young kid, it was drawing him to it. He would hear Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, and something, the way they said Arabic terms brought him closer to it. And when he heard the Nation of Islam saying Arabic terms and saying Assalamu alaikum and saying Allah, he was like, that's what I was looking for. That's what I was trying to get to. So there are a couple of things. The first thing is your fitra, or your predisposition, the way we are naturally designed, and that is to submit to the will of God. So everything in the universe does. Ours, as human beings, we are given the freedom to decide. We decide whether we want to follow the will of God or not. So some people don't, some people do, but that inclination inside of you, your conscience, that tells you to do the right thing, is your fitra. It's your natural predisposition towards God. That's one thing that's bringing you. The other thing is that you are African American descent. So there was a large percentage of Africans that came to this continent who are already Muslim, right? And that religious memory is still in us. That's also why my father, when he heard that, he was like, this is something that is familiar to me. It's something that is in our DNA. The same way trauma can pass through your DNA, so can good things and great things that happen to you. So that's something probably from your great-great-great-great-grandparent. And the reason I say this, especially about my father, is because when he became Muslim, when he was in the Nation of Islam, he got a book, and on the front of the book it had a picture of the brothers making salat. And he told his family about it. I'm a Muslim now, and they were all like, no, I'm a Christian. Don't be a Muslim, become a Christian, stay a Christian just like us. And the only person that listened to him was his grandmother. And his grandmother said, that's exactly how we used to pray. She was the only person who understood him and accepted him for being a Muslim. She said we used to pray like this. She didn't really understand why, but she said that, and she also said that they prayed by this kennel, and when they prayed by the kennel, it was in the barn, and they prayed by a kennel. That's all she said. And I could not understand this story at all, but it always stuck in my mind. I'm like, why would they pray by a large kennel? I didn't understand it. And I told this story probably, some of y'all probably heard this a million times, but every time I say it, it just, something inside of me makes me want to say it again because it's very, very important. I was looking at Henry Gates doing a show. Henry Gates is the one that does the Roots Ancestry. So he did a documentary on the religiosity of Africans. And he was talking about a large kennel. And the reason they prayed that way was to muffle their voices. So my great-great-grandparents was praying this way so they could pray in Salat, and the people that were enslaving them, they didn't hear them speaking Arabic when they were when they were Muslims. The reason I've done my ancestry DNA is all to find that out because I know for certain just from what my grandmother said, but I want to know the exact tribe I came from. So the other thing is, there was a large percentage of Africans that became Muslims. There's some varying numbers about how many people became Muslim because when they came to the Americas and they converted them to Christianity, it changed the number of how many people were possibly Muslim. For example, Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. Then he was forced to convert to Christianity. So he would be legally written down as a Christian when he was actually a Muslim to start with. There's this book called Servant of Allah. The Muslim enslaved Africans. And the lady that wrote the book said there's still a lot of research to be done on this topic. Actually, a man wrote a book called Muslims in the Chesapeake. He wrote his PhD, he has a PhD, and he wrote his book on Muslims in the Chesapeake, who says the number is a little bit larger than what she said. She said about 30-something, 35%, and he said it was a little bit more than that. But at any rate, those Africans that came here that were Muslims, the rest of them had their own indigenous religions. But their indigenous religions became Al-Islam. Because Western Africa, all of it is Muslim now. So even if the people that came here were Muslims, you were going to be a Muslim eventually. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is calling you to this. People, especially African American people, but all people. I only say African American people because I'm African American and I know about African American people. I can say this is what happens with them, right? But it's everyone. When you confront them with this truth, it's only two things that they can do. They can only accept it or live in denial. That's why it is our job to tell them. Because the more people you tell, then there are more people will be accepting it. There's no one, I told you, I tell everyone, practically everybody I know about this religion. I invite them to this religion in some way. And that's not to say that everybody accepts it. It's not my duty to convince them to be a Muslim. It's only to give them the invitation. It's up to them to decide and Allah to open their hearts to decide. But I just give them the invitation. Yes, sir. Convey, absolutely. So in doing so, what has happened, at least with the people that I know, if they don't become Muslim, they at least respect Al-Islam a little bit more. They know how serious I am about it. They know that it brings discipline to people. They know that it brings them closer to God, whether they disagree with who that God is or not. So the best thing you can do is at least explain the religion to other people, and then at least they'll have a respect for it, they have an understanding of it. And then, alhamdulillah, if it's up to Allah and up to that person, then they'll accept it. But that thing that is drawing you to it, everybody in here who wasn't born Muslim had that same feeling, that exact same feeling that is drawing them to it. And it's, when people say it, I just feel a little bit warm inside because I hear it all the time. I know what it is. Even myself, being born Muslim is, you still need to revert or convert to Islam. Because you have, at some point, you have to realize for yourself whether it's true or not. It doesn't matter if I've been praying 5 times a day and I've been doing all these things. I was doing it because my daddy made me, right? Like I make my son come in here and pray. That doesn't mean he believes in the religion, right? At some point in his life, he's gonna have to decide whether is this what I really want? Do I really believe this, or I'm just doing it because my daddy told me to? And I think it's more courageous of people who were Christian, people who are not Muslim, who become Muslim, than me. I've already been Muslim my whole life, right? So just to think about it and say, okay, I'm gonna continue doing what I've been doing, that's relatively easy. But for somebody to say, I've been believing this my entire life, let me see if it's true. And if it's not true, I'm gonna change. It takes hell and earth for people to change. Period. Anything they do. Anything, even if it's something bad, they don't want to change it. They want to keep doing it forever and ever and ever and ever. So the idea that you came here just to explore it says a lot about yourself, about the courage that you have. I'm talking to your husband as well, but I talk specifically to women because it's more difficult. I think you're a woman, you're black, and you're considering being a Muslim, right? That's three things that could be hindrance to something that you want to do that's worldly, something that's material. So you're saying consciously, I may sacrifice that material thing in order to please God, right? A man has a couple of things. A man is a man, right? But he's black. He's considering possibly being Muslim. So there's two things. But for a woman, it's like more barriers that they have to overcome. So in order to come here and even consider it, show some courage in yourself. It shows courage in him. But he's supposed to have courage. He's a man. He's supposed to be, when times get tough, he's supposed to go out there and say, look, this is what we're going to do. We got to fix this, right? And you look to him for your strength. But it's all an individual journey. Alhamdulillah, y'all doing it together. Their sisters are coming here. Their husband don't want to be a Muslim at all. They ain't think about Islam, right? But they come in here like, my heart is calling me to this, right? I know some people specifically, their heart is calling them to it, but their husbands, he want to play football at 1 o'clock. He's not trying to be here listening to no football, listening to no sermon about God, right? And so I'm just saying that to say it takes a lot of courage to even consider. Yes, sir. You got anything you want to say?
Oh no, I was gonna make a little joke, but you said football, I was like, whoa.
Right, it's not football time yet, right? Yeah.
But there's always the 4 o'clock game.
Right. Right. So we try to make it sure.
But it's a sacrifice that can be made.
The brother that just took the shahada a couple weeks ago, Miles, he said one thing I like is what you said is peaceful, but he also said it's short, so I can get back and watch the rest of the game. I'm like, listen, you ain't missing much. You missing maybe the first quarter. If we all got DVR, you can record it and just watch it when you get home, and then you can skip through the commercials.
Well, my wife would tell you I'm a fanatic football fan.
What's your team?
I'm from Boston.
Okay.
So you can figure out the rest. Don't kick me out, brother.
So you one of the people that I ain't talking to. You and the Steelers fan, don't nobody want to hear nothing.
Yeah, you don't want to hear. Yeah, I've been to a lot of parades.
A lot of parades.
A lot of parades.
I used to be a Bears fan.
Ooh.
And
it's
we
okay.
had one since '85. So
Dicker, Perry.
Right. I became a Bears fan because they had a really good song. That was the Super Bowl Shuffle, right? I'm like, okay, I like that. But then they won the Super Bowl. I like them. Yeah. That's the same way I became a Lakers fan, right? They had Just Say No to Drugs. They had the whole rap. I still remember Kareem's rap to that song. I was like, okay,
remember that?
I'm a Lakers fan now, right?
That was a long time
right.
ago.
So if you had a good song, man, you had me, right?
Yeah.
But I stopped being a Bears fan. I stopped looking at football, and then my brother returned to Allah last year. So I said I was a Steelers fan because I took the mantle back up because he was a Steelers fan and he destroyed me in football conversations because I only won one Super Bowl. So my whole life I was hearing about these 2 Super Bowls, and then they won 2 more, then they won 2 more. I'm like, man, I'm talking to you about basketball, right? Or anything else other than football because I can't win, right? So he passed last year, so I said, listen, I'll be a Steelers fan. I talked to a bunch of Steelers people to see if it was okay for me to get on the bandwagon. He said, it's a good reason. I'm going to let you go because of your brother. They don't want you on no bandwagons, man, especially since they won 6. He's like, you just coming on here because we winners, you know?
Win, right. Right.
You know, one of the beauties for individuals, you know, men and women who are seekers and they're trying to expand their consciousness and the way that they look at the world, that God, Allah, loves seekers. He loves individuals who are trying to get closer to him. And I think as Muslims, sometimes some things that we we don't look at enough is that Allah did not create this way of life, this religion, to be difficult. There are so many things that you will find that you start to do when you become a seeker and you start to look for a greater connection to God, that it is just going to make your life so much easier, not more difficult. It's going to make it easier.
Simplifying things.
Absolutely, just small things. When one of the beauties about being Muslim is that it's a reason that God instructed us to pray 5 times a day. Because when you pray 5 times a day, for some people, they may look at that as a hardship. But for seekers, hopefully they can understand that praying 5 times a day will always keep God on your mind. And it will help you avoid getting into trouble and doing some things you're not supposed to be doing. Because in a few hours, you're going to have to make prayer. And so where some people may look at that as a hardship, how can I make 5 prayers a day? For people who are seeking and people who have understanding, then they see that is a blessing and not a curse.
It's easier to veer off than to stay on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Everything that we do is a cure for some ill. So like you said, it really helps you in the long run. I've never drank alcohol before in my life, right? Because I was Muslim. So I didn't have to concern myself with weaning myself off of it. You find out now that alcohol is bad for you. We don't eat pork, we don't drink the blood of animals. It gives you the idea to watch what you eat and what you drink. It makes you more conscientious of everything that you do. Like you said, we just prayed 30 minutes ago. In a couple hours, we got to pray again. That means in between that time, you're not thinking about doing something wrong. You're like, well, I know in a couple hours, I got to go pray again, right? I got to pray to God. I don't want to go before him and I'm not just grab the bank. I just sold somebody drugs or something like that. It is all designed and it is all established for you to have the best natural life you can. If you live, when we make this salat, right? This is not only is it a worship, it's an exercise. It's a stretching. You see, I'm always amazed when I'm praying beside somebody who's 80 years old and they're getting up and down the same speed that I am, right? Our teacher, Catrice, is how old? I ain't gonna say how she is on camera, but she had to go do yoga, she was the only person that could do the yoga pose. The teacher and her, right? Because she sits on the floor all the time. There's this book that I lent her, or I bought for her. It's called The 11 Contentions. And in one of the contentions, it says we are meant to sit on the floor. I ain't saying this because y'all sitting in chairs right now. But it says, and I sit in chairs all the time, it says sitting in chairs is actually bad for you. Sitting on the floor is better for you. Because you have to keep positioning yourself. And you should be positioning yourself instead of like slouching in a chair or something like that, right? So when you're on your knees, when you're on the floor, you're sitting Indian style. There's one Asian culture where they sit like this. They're all talking together and they're just stooping like this, talking to each other, right? And when I did that just now, I don't know if y'all heard this, but my knees were just going snap, crackle, pop over there, right? But you're supposed to. We are designed to be in motion. So Allah makes the motion for us 5 times a day. We're supposed to be doing this. So not only is it a blessing for us, not only is it a remembrance of Allah, but it also is working in your body. Your muscles are moving. Those bones have been stuck stiff like this forever, just cracked because I just did a little squat with it. So it's designed, everything that we do is designed for us to make us better. If you be Muslim, a Muslim who has been practicing, you see that person that's 40 years old and somebody else is 40 years old, the same 40-year-old person, they're not the same. They don't look the same, they don't act the same. They're not the same. Because one of them been living a healthy life. If you do what Allah tells you to do, that's how you know this is the true religion. That's how you know it's a natural religion. Because if you do it, you will live longer, you'll be healthier, you'll be happier. The people that concern themselves most with Allah, with God consciousness, period. They live a longer life, they are happier people, they're less depressed, they smoke less, they go to work more, they find out even that they take less time off for sick leave. They're healthier people. They get married, they stay married longer, Their marriage is healthier because both of them are striving in the same path. Both of them are trying to please God, and in pleasing God, they're pleasing each other. So the more you practice this religion, the easier it becomes on your life. That's why I was saying in the khutbah, I love my life. I love what I do. I love this, right? Because it's clearly the best thing. Allah says, truth stands clear from falsehood, right? Which means when you put them together, you're going to see one of them ain't the thing. So if this is true and everything else is not true, it doesn't matter what you put beside it, you're going to see that this one is true. And that's what happens over and over again. You become a Muslim. You live your life. I'm telling you, me personally, I didn't have a bunch of money. I had jobs where I was working minimum wage for 4 and 5 years. But my money always stretched longer than everybody else I worked with. They thought I had another job. No, I don't have another job. I just don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't gamble. My money is going to me eating food and my shelter, right? Every time I ever worked, my money always went further than everyone else's. They thought I was doing something with it.
You took your money home.
Right, exactly. Every time I only bought the essentials. Clothes. I like, dressing up. I buy some clothes I really like. I like a nice car or something. But other than that, my money was not spent on frivolous things or things that were not life-giving. So if you live the life you're supposed to, everything will stretch further. Your money will stretch further. Your friendships, your family, relationships, everything will grow because you're an honest, forthright person. And then people also, they probably already do this. And I ask people all the time about this. Your family and friends probably already come to you. They already see you as an honest, good person. They come to you for advice. I'm telling you, it almost always is the case. When somebody is courageous enough to come through these doors and talk about this, almost always that person is the nucleus for their family already. And their family loves them already. Their family asks them to help them already. They're the person that keeps the family together because they're good people. That's the reason they want to be Muslims, because they see this religion of Islam. This is a good thing. This will enhance my goodness, right? The prophet was a great person before he was a prophet. He was so great that people didn't believe his religion, but they knew he was telling the truth. They was like, well, I know he's not lying. I don't understand it. I may not believe in his religion, but we know for sure he is not a liar. He never lied before ever in his life. He's a good person. That's what I was talking about in the khutbah on Friday. The man didn't accept his religion, but he told people to go talk to him to get advice. Why? Because he knows his advice is going to be sound. He just didn't want to accept it. Anything else you all wanted to talk about? Anything you all think of, you want to talk about, let me know. We can, if it's a subject you want me to discuss, something you want me to just elaborate on, let me know. I'll put it in the khutbah, I'll put it in the ta'aleem, we'll talk about it. Because if you have questions about it, perhaps other people do too as well. Perhaps people do that has been Muslim 20 years. They just didn't want to ask nobody because they've been Muslim for 20 years, right? So never think that any question that you ask is something that is trivial or something that is that shouldn't be asked, because all questions are important. They all should be answered. And there are things, I asked the Imam something one time, Imam Fareed, and he didn't know about it. And I was thinking, like, how can he not know about it? But it's so much things to know that small things can slip past you. Easy things that you think are relatively easy to you. There's so many things to know. So no question is out of the question. Ask any question. I may not know the answer to it, but I'll find it. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to, like how you just mentioned, there's so many things to know. That's not really anything to get overwhelmed with. It's actually a blessing because, like also how you mentioned, everything in Islam is to make yourself better, right? And Allah loves the consistent deeds that you do, even if they're small, right? So no matter what of the many things you want to learn or improve yourself on, it's just, you could from A to Z just pick something and work on it. If you don't pick a second thing, it's just any improvement is better than nothing. You get what I'm saying? Sort of just anything. And once you get that down pat, okay, let's find out something else about Islam. Let's work on that part. You don't have to overwhelm yourself, because it's easy to do that. You'd be like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to know all this? Don't worry about all this. Worry about one or two things.
Let me say something about that. You have been a Muslim how long?
August will be 3 years.
3 years, right? you know more Quran than I knew for probably 35 years of my life, maybe longer than that, right? Because you came in and wanted to learn Arabic and wanted to pursue that passion and that part of it, right? I can tell you what Yusuf Ali said, the translation of all these books, but you went straight to the source. So I want you to appreciate that too, because I know you just became Muslim relatively recently, right? And I hope you realize how much you know, right? You realize how advanced you are. Maybe you don't know this, because it doesn't look like you know this, but I'm telling you, that is the truth. Most Muslims around you, you know more than them already. You've been a Muslim 3 years. They may know the more verses than you in English, but you know more than them in Arabic. Right? You understand what I'm saying? And you have more understanding. So whatever you decide to, whatever expertise you decide, you just be as best you can in that aspect of it. Me, I came through the religion through comparative religion. I love figuring out about Christianity and Islam and Judaism and all those things, and that's what drove me into where I am. And then ultimately, I felt like I hit a plateau, like, okay, I know Islam is true now, what else can I do? And that's when I started learning Arabic and learning other things. What I'm really interested in now, what the brother was talking about learning more, is about so we talked about the Quran, the Sunnah, but I also think people need to know the Sirah, the life of the Prophet. And I'm trying to figure out a way to implement that without making it a huge burden. Because, people read the book on their own individually, but if we read it as a community and talk about it, I think that'll be a good idea. That way, we'll better understand the Quran, because it'll talk about when these revelations were revealed and why they were revealed, what was going on in those instances. So it'll resonate with people more. When you read the Quran, you know Allah's talking to you, but you can also know, okay, this is where it came out. He was talking directly to this person about it, and it may hit you in a different way. You may remember it more because you remember the circumstances in which it came. All right. Appreciate you all. Assalamu alaikum. I know you was not surprised by what I'm saying, right?